Hey folks, Doug Blake with Body Design University. In this video, I want to talk to you about shoulder imbalances, and in particular, an issue that is quite apparent when you're dealing with the average client. By the way, even with athletes and probably yourself, I know I used to have this issue, and it's specific to the strength imbalances between the shoulder external rotators versus the internal rotators. Now, real quick, just a kind of a recap, I guess you would say, is that the kinesiological function of, for instance, the deltoid is to abduct the shoulder. Okay. Now we also know that the deltoid itself can act as a internal rotator using the anterior head, and as a sort of an little bit of an external rotator using the posterior head. You can do it's at least assistive in horizontal abduction and horizontal adduction. So that's the deltoids. But one of the things we seldom look at, and that's actually probably more important to the health of the shoulder, are those muscles that are not as superficial, for instance, as the deltoid is, or even the pectoralis and the latissimus dorsi, are the internal and external rotators, or what we call the rotator cuff muscles. Now, technically, I guess you can say there's four rotator cuff muscles. Often we use the acronym SITS, SITS. So you can say supraspinatus, so that's S, and then the I is infraspinatus. The T is teres minor, and then the other S is the subscapularis. So infraspinatus, supraspinatus, teres minor. I said those first two out of order. And the subscapularis. But only two of those four muscles are going to act as external rotators. Why is this important? Because the imbalance, and again, this is a specific type of imbalance that we see more often than not. I used to have it, and I overcome the imbalances that I'm going to talk about here by doing one or two very specific exercises at least once a week. And the imbalance is generally going to be that the external rotators, the muscles that move or rotate the humerus, right, externally or laterally versus internal or medial. Okay, so remember that the shoulder can go through abduction, right, deltoid contraction, adduction, and the movement patterns themselves can be abduction, adduction, flexion, extension. Remember, the shoulder's got a lot of movement capabilities, but it's also internal, external rotation. So the shoulder's rather unique of all sort of the major joints of your body, in that it has a lot of mobility to it, which also brings with it some problems. So the shoulder imbalances we're talking about, particularly to this video, are the internal and external rotators, and what happens when you don't train your external rotators. Remember, four rotator cuff muscles, two of those guys are external rotators. So it's not like you're getting a whole lot of activity and strength from those two guys versus all of the internal rotators at the shoulder. And what are your primary internal rotating muscles at the shoulder joint? Well, it's going to be your pectoralis major. That's a big muscle, folks. Okay, it's a big, strong muscle, especially if you're training it all the time. When it becomes stronger, and it can overpower, for sure, the external rotators if they are not trained. The other main internal rotator at the shoulder is going to be your lats. I know you say, but my pecs and my lats are on different sides of the body. No, but their insertion points, their tendon insertions, are actually fairly close together, somewhat medial, right, on the humerus itself. And so they tend to internally rotate under normal conditions. They tend to internally rotate the humerus, or shoulder internal rotation. And so again, pecs, lats, what are they doing? They're pulling. As they get stronger, they tend to pull and medially rotate the humerus, and therefore internally rotate the shoulder. And you've only got two muscles, the teres minor and the infraspinatus, to counter those two very large, powerful muscles. So when we're talking about shoulder imbalances, you got to keep that in mind. One of the ways it's really easy to see it, and it's one of the reasons why stopped doing postural assessments because pretty much every client that I ever worked with always had at least one or multiple issues related to the shoulder because of the weakened external rotators. And I could always see somebody's hand, like with their hands are at the side, I could always see that the thumb was turned in, which itself indicates a couple of things at the shoulder. That's right. Look at somebody's hands when they're just standing up straight and they're just doing this, they're just standing there. Look at where the thumbs are. The thumbs should technically be facing forward. But what I always see, and all I got to do is look at somebody's at varying degrees, the thumb is always medially rotate. Now, that's not coming from the wrist or the elbow. It's coming from the upper arm, the humerus. And if my shoulder is internally rotated, right, even slightly, you're going to see that in the hand. That's just the way it works. Easy to spot. I would do postural assessments with clients, and it's like, oh, internal rotation. They got weak or lengthened external rotator muscles at the shoulder. So what do? You got to strengthen those two muscles, the infraspinatus and the teres minor. Easy to do this, but you got to do two separate exercises. Both the teres minor and the infraspinatus act as external rotators, but they are more active individually in two different positions of the shoulder. When the shoulder is in a adducted position versus in an abducted position. Okay, now watch. The shoulder can be in a adducted position, meaning that the arm is down at the side. And if I bend my elbow, I can do an external rotator exercise this way. Okay, with my elbow tucked in, I can, with a band or some other apparatus, cable, you can pull against the force moving this way, and that will strengthen your external rotators, in particular, your teres minor and infraspinatus. I can also, with my elbow tucked into the side, do my external rotator, but I also want to make sure that I'm doing external rotators with my shoulder in an abducted position. So now I can pull up and back this way. Why? Because the infraspinatus and the teres minor work differently in those two different positions. So you want to hit both of those guys when you do this. Now, again, I will normally do this once a week when I train clients. I'm definitely doing it once a week with moderate to high repetitions. These are not strength training exercises. Those are not big muscles, just so you know. So I will generally stay in the 15 to 20 rep range, with a moderate amount of resistance. You don't want to be doing heavy external rotator work. By the way, just by doing that, you'll notice two things generally, and these are the things over the years I've noticed. Two main things. If you do external rotator movements in the 15 to 20 or even higher range on a regular basis, at least once a week with your clients, is you're going to notice their posture start to change. Believe it or not, as soon as they go from a protracted, internally rotated shoulder girdle positioning, when those two external rotators start to tighten and strengthen, you'll actually notice a little bit more retraction of the shoulder girdle and a more normalized position of the humerus, i.e., the thumb will actually start to face outward a little bit laterally, a little bit more, so that it should generally be straight in line, right, forward and backwards. That's the first thing. The other thing that I would generally notice is that clients will actually tell me that their back doesn't hurt as much and their shoulder and neck don't hurt as much. Two really important things. Number one is this postural resetting or repositioning of the posture to a better postural position first, and then this reduction in sort of chronic low-grade discomfort and pain that they have both in their back and their neck, and in some cases their shoulder. So you need to correct shoulder imbalances, internal external rotator shoulder imbalances, by training or adding in external rotator work. Do not, let me say it again, do not train internal rotation. You don't need to, especially if you're doing any type of pectoralis and lat work, which you are if you're exercising and you're doing any type of training, resistance training, do not when you're doing external rotator work, don't turn around and start doing internal, because now you're just exacerbating the problem that you started off with. You don't need to train your internal rotators. They're already getting trained well enough by the chest work, pectoralis work, and the back work or lat work that you're doing. So keep that in mind. Do not do internal rotator work unless, I don't even know why a doctor or anybody would ever tell you to do that unless you got some really bizarre condition. But the average person, that means 99.99% of you, athletes included, only include external rotator exercises, especially when you're doing lots of chest work already and lat work. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Look, if this made sense to you, you understood how I explained this, you understand the concept, then write the word understand in the comment section below. If you're looking to become a certified and qualified personal trainer, please click on the link below in the description box. You'll talk to one of our enrollment specialists, and they can help get you on board. Every Wednesday night, by the way, every Wednesday night, we play a little game called Quizlet Live, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 to 6:30. Quizlet Live is just a way to use the Quizlet study modalities that are available online. And we create this fun little competition that's going to help you in your studies. So just let us know how we can be of assistance to you. Have a great week. We will see you next week. Bye.